Okay, folks, so we will now continue to live record the public comment session. As a reminder, your recorded comments will be distributed to the MTA board and will be posted to our board meeting webpage and YouTube channel. So let's get started here. Our first speaker will be, okay, we'll go with Jack Nienenberg and then Denise Wellington, please.
Okay, all right, good morning. I'm Jack Nienenberg, Vice President of Passengers United. Look, our job is to help people, and I would not be doing my job if I did not mention the pattern or practice of discrimination against the most vulnerable with the capital projects and a lack of accountability thereof. So starting with the Long Island Railroad schedules, which have been an absolute mess. Do you realize that people lost their jobs because of the new schedules? It's disproportionately affecting especially Brooklyn commuters, people on the diesel branches, all the other branches that are not the Ronkonkoma or the Babylon branch or Huntington that are lower income from more minority demographic groups. Is doing more harm than good. People want the Brooklyn direct trains from Brooklyn to Long Island back. And all that the MTA has done is just add more shuttle trains. It's not going to do it. People don't want that. It's doing more harm than good. And secondly, with the bus network redesigns, same thing. It's adversely affecting those in minority demographic groups, seniors, and those with disabilities. So how can you celebrate a trivial difference in the bus speeds when the most vulnerable are disadvantaged in the process? Telling people who have trouble walking to walk farther to their bus stop is disrespectful and discriminatory. This needs to change. This has been going on for way too long. The MTA, and look, the reason why I'm saying this now is not to bash the MTA, is to offer necessary improvements. You want to win riders back? Well, how do you win them back? Listen to their needs and actually accommodate them, not telling them what they need. I'm pleading with you, please do the right thing. This needs to change. Thank you.
Thank you for your remarks. Thank you for your remarks. Our next speaker will be Denise Wellington, followed by Margie Russell over Zoom.
Good morning. My name is Denise Wellington. I'm from TW Local 100. I am the Career and Salary Union Rep. Let's go back to Monday, March 27th, when our employees, our members, are checking the BSC portal, not just for their paycheck, but to see if the long-awaited, long overdue, and very much needed retro check has been posted. But surprise, no retro check is listed. Okay, so you figure they just didn't post it, but it's coming on Thursday, March 30th. Let's fast forward to tomorrow, Thursday, a day that will be very sad and disappointing for our members because there will be no retro check for anyone. Here I stand surprised, not really, that not only are there no retro checks, but to add further insult to the situation, the authority never said a word. It's a lack of respect, a lack of common courtesy. It's an act meant to further divide us, not just with the non-reps, but amongst each other. Shame on you. Shame on you. We work just as hard as the non-reps. Today, we live in a world where inflation is high, the cost of goods and services continue to rise, and yet no one can take the time to inform our members the retro pay that they've been patiently waiting for would not be available as promised. Why didn't the authority inform our members when they realized the retro checks would not be ready for distribution on March 30th? Many of us were depending on this check, and yet again, the authority has failed us. But don't worry, our brothers and sisters will continue to be on site, working to maintain the functioning of the authority, while many of you and your colleagues will be working from home. But just like the post office, we will deliver regardless. But be aware, there will be a sadness and disappointment among us. But maybe there's a possibility of some hope that just maybe you will look at us as human beings and say to yourself, we have to make this right. We know the authority can do what they want to do for who they want to do it for. We are asking you to investigate, find out who made the egregious error, hold them accountable, and right the wrong, and pay us what we are owed now. Thank you.
Thank you for your remarks. Our next speaker will be Margie Russell over Zoom, followed by Gary Giordano over Zoom.
Thank you very much. Can you hear me? Hello? Okay.
We
My
can
name
hear you,
is
Margie.
Russell. Thank you. Margie Russell, Executive Director for the New York Association of Realty Managers, NIARM. Firstly, I'm speaking as a citizen of the metropolitan area. I frequent the Oyster Bay and the Port Washington lines. I often take the very late train home, the one that leaves around 11 p.m. And so on that train, I myself twice, coming from only 4 rows back, couldn't make the exit door and the doors closed on me and I missed my stop. And so therefore, late at night, I'm standing in another station without access, having to call a cab and so forth. So I don't understand why late at night, that end of the line, both trains have to rush so fast. There must be a reason. It must be financial, because it's not like they're trying to connect to another train. So that is very upsetting. The other thing is, nowhere in either Moynihan or Penn can you look up at a board and say, oh, what train can I catch to get to Manhasset? What train can I catch to get to Locust Valley? And so I go up and I ask information and they say, well, there's no more connecting trains. Well, that's a use of a term, because of course there's connecting trains, but they don't want to say it's a connecting train, because if you miss that connecting train, well, there are no connecting trains. So luckily, of course, I take out my phone and I have to look it up, especially with the changes in the times. So there I am, of course, I'm on the Long Beach train. Now the connection in Jamaica is so tight. And again, why they have to rush back to Oyster Bay late at night, I don't know, but the connection is so tight. It's like the beginning of a 50-yard dash. And I've got
Please
high
conclude your
blood
remarks.
pressure and I'm dizzy. And so now I run down to the edge of the platform so the conductor can see me. And it's very frightening.
Ms.
3
Russell, please
times-
conclude your remarks
Yes.
to
3
accommodate
times
other comments.
I've missed that train. So
Thank
please
you.
look into this.
Our next speaker will be Gary Giordano, followed by Yolanda Alin in person.
Thank you for the opportunity to speak to you. I'm Gary Giordano, and I'm the district manager of Community Board 5 in Queens. And I'm also a member of the board of directors of Civics United for Railroad Environmental Solutions. So our concern is the freight railroad. So Civics United for Environmental Solutions recently learned that the Long Island Railroad will award a contract for freight locomotives by June of 2023. And we're asking that President Rinaldi and the Long Island Railroad and the MTA leverage the $20 million that is already available through the state legislature for the LIRR for a project to procure either new freight locomotives or repower existing locomotives. And we're asking that they apply for a Federal Railroad Administration Consolidated Rail Infrastructure and Safety Improvements Grant in September 2023. From what we know, you can use the $20 million that's available as matching funds to gain a total of between 40 and 100 million. By repowering the entire 1970s LIRR and New York and Atlantic Railway fleet of 40 ancient locomotives, you remove the nitrous oxide emissions equivalent of 1 million cars from New York's air forever. This will be a major measurable climate leadership and community protection act win for the MTA and New York State. To repower the LIR work trains and New York and Atlantic freight trains that will operate in rail yards to Tier 4 switch duty.
Hi, Gary, please conclude your remarks. Your 2 minutes are up.
Okay. We're asking that they purchase switch duty locomotives instead of line haul locomotives. And we've been waiting for this for a long time. Those ancient.
Hi, Gary, please conclude your remarks. The 2 minutes are up.
Yeah, those ancient locomotives are polluting the air, and we're hoping that the LIR.
Thank you, Gary.
Procure.
Our next speaker will be Yolanda Alin in person, followed by Edward Maywood.
Good morning. My name is Yolanda Alin. I'm here to speak on SCAC, which was known as the Senior Council Advisory Committee for the MTA. Unfortunately, we were closed down without anyone knowing about it, and so-called merged into ACAT, which we don't know anything about. And as I've always said, seniors are the most disrespected people by the MTA, that they don't care much about seniors. We have no value, even though we are voters, we are taxpayers, we are everything else but contributors to the MTA. But when you look at your telephone bill, your electric bill, your gas bill, you see MTA charges. So what are we paying for when we have no voice in the MTA and we become voiceless? Even as stressor ride riders, we are still mostly disrespected as seniors and stressor ride riders. And we can't complain because no one listened to us, because we are part of the silent people. We can't hear, no one hear us because we are so-called invisible and be thrown aside like we are trash. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your comments. Our next speaker will be Edward Maywood. Is Edward in the room with us today? Okay.
He was there.
He was,
He was in the other room.
okay. Our next speaker here will be Michael Ring, followed by Kara Leibowitz.
Hi, my name is Michael Ring, and if you need a verbal description of my appearance, I'm a nondescript white guy wearing a hoodie and a hat that says the name of the organization I represent, Disabled in Action. If I was able to speak in the room earlier, I would have pointed out that we were on the 20th story of a modern office building, and it was kind of easy to get upstairs. Everyone came to work, everyone came to the meeting, because there's at least 20 elevators in this building, and they all worked. And if they don't work, it doesn't matter because there's 19 more. Everyone gets to go to work. But except the people who live in the outer boroughs and have to take the subway but need an elevator. Because if you have to take the subway, you actually need 4 or 5 elevators to get to work and another 4 or 5 to get home. And we can't count on them working. So not no one, but very, very few people who are dependent on elevators to travel are taking the subway, which means hundreds of thousands of New Yorkers are leading isolated, non-productive lives because they can't go to work like everyone else in New York. They're not paying taxes, they're not going to work. And if the priorities of the MTA would have been a little different, maybe they wouldn't have built this, beautiful new railroad station that cost $11 billion, so that a handful of people can save 20 minutes a day when they come and go to work. If they would have taken $11 billion and fixed up the elevators, installed more, kept them operating, hundreds of thousands of people will be getting to work instead of not working at all. So it's not too late to change your priorities. It's a matter of where you're spending the money. And people with disabilities can be productive, but they are stuck in their own neighborhoods because the elevators are they're not useful because you can't count on them. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your remarks. Our next speaker will be Kara Leibowitz, followed by Linde. Is Kara? Okay, thanks, Kara. Take your time.
Good morning. My name is Kara Leibowitz, Advocacy Coordinator at the Brooklyn Center for Independence of the Disabled, BCID. Like most people in their 30s, I lead a busy life. My professional and personal obligations often take me all over New York City and Long Island. I frequently ride the subway and the Long Island Railroad, and I frequently encounter out-of-service elevators. A couple of weeks ago, I was traveling back to Brooklyn from Long Island when I encountered an out-of-service elevator leading up to the mezzanine at Jamaica. Luckily, there was an MTA worker on the platform willing to help me cut through a stopped train to get through the platform where the train to Atlantic Terminal was. But without that worker, I'm not sure what I would have done. This is not uncommon. In fact, according to Unlocked Maps, a tool that allows people to see in real time what elevators are out of service throughout the transit system, some elevators, like the one at Times Square 42nd Street, have been out of service for over a month. Others, like the one at the Church Avenue 25 station near my apartment, were out of service more days than not over the past month. The MTA has made some progress, which we appreciate. We settled 2 lawsuits with the MTA about subway accessibility last summer, but we're not there yet. BCID is a plaintiff in another lawsuit about subway elevator maintenance and repair that still has not been settled. In 2000, BCID's executive director, Joe Rappaport, co-wrote a report about 110,000 elevator and escalator outages from public advocate Mark Green. The report documented 6 years of poor maintenance, including findings that subway elevators were out of service an average of 26 days a year. The report was called Stuck. Here it is, almost a quarter century later, and we are still stuck. It's time for the MTA to finally do a better job.
Thank you for your remarks. Our next speaker will be Linde, followed by David Feliciano.
Hello, can you hear me? Hello, can you hear me?
Yep, we can hear you.
Okay, so thank you for this opportunity. I will soon be 74 years old. I'm a grandmother. Within the last few years, I moved to Forest Hills from Manhattan. That was a shock. My grandson, who is 5, lives in Long Island City. It is very, very difficult for me to get to him. Please consider rerouting the G train the way it used to be. I could take the G train from 71st Street or 67th Avenue, and I could take it to 21st Avenue if I could go there. Now the G train only goes to Court Square. I have to walk through a long tunnel. I have a wait. This is not acceptable. It doesn't have to be. Grandparents should be able to visit their grandchildren without all of this hassle. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your remarks. Our next speaker will be David Feliciano, followed by Yuki Endo. David, is your audio connected okay? David, we see you, but we can't hear you right now. So we're gonna go to Yuki, and then we'll pop back to you, okay, David? So our next speaker will be Yuki Endo, followed by David Feliciano.
My name is Giordano. Person, on September 16, there will be vegan festival coming up at the London Island. We need a special event X80 bus to and fund the event because the N35 bus gets dangerously overcrowded, and sometimes people going bugs and what happening get stranded in the evening. For 2 to 4 hour lecture on the video on the YouTube channel. Last year, for the long later, I'm not happy with the booking shuttle during the rush hour. 342 and all branches need their authentic channel directory. The list of time connection at clinical linear only branches because links are not good. And during the mainline shutdown in Nassau, we need shuttle buses between 4 o'clock and 6. For the buses, bus Brooklyn Queens bus redesign basically the B to B 6, 13, 17, 24, 26, 35, 36, 38, 47, 48, 49, 61, 62, 68, 69, 160, Q 17, 22, 23, 30, 35, 45, and 41, 48, 53, 100 cities, Q 110 cities alone. I am grateful New York Assembly Senate agreed to pass the NTA package at the free fare and free bus service in New York City, thanks to all the turned out other days.
Hey, Yuki, 2 minutes is up. Can you please conclude your remarks?
And in court, the Governor Cassie signed the bill. Thank you.
Thanks, Yuki. Our next speaker will be David Feliciano, followed by Michael Schweinsberg.
Seeing audio.
David, are you there? All right, David, we're going to, hopefully you can resolve your audio issues, but so we're, in the meantime, we're going to move to Michael Schweinsberg will be our next speaker, followed by, what was your name?
Andy Pollock.
Andy Pollock. Oh,
You're gonna start the counter again? Okay. Good afternoon. My name is Michael Schweinsberg, and I'm the president of the 504 Democratic Club, which is one of only 3 major citywide clubs in the nation, in our 40th year now, the nation's first and largest advocating for the civil rights of people with disabilities. But lest you think this is a democratic issue, let me know, let you know that we are a nonpartisan membership. In fact, our first vice president is a Republican because disability rights are not Democratic or Republican issues. As almost all the young people from the Earth School earlier today, who also, by the way, joined our demonstration downstairs, but as they testified on behalf of family members who are not necessarily disabled, I want to put an emphasis on the curb cut effect. We had a fight in the 90s just to get curb cuts installed. Parents thinking that, oh no, my children run out in the street and get hit by trucks and buses. It was a long, hard fight to get curb cuts. But once we did, everybody used them and everybody now loves them. Well, the same is true of all accessibility benefits. They benefit the non-disabled equally with the disabled. Who doesn't benefit from sliding glass doors, push lever door handles, wider doorways, wider hallways, ramps into buildings, etc. Every accessibility feature, including, of course, subway elevators, are everybody's. And then I'd just like to say quickly that elevators do not make a subway station accessible. They're still not addressing the problems of the blind and deaf and like that. Thank you.
thank you, Michael. Our next speaker will be Andy Pollock.
Good morning, everyone. Andy Pollock here from Passengers United. So, the state budget is due in less than 72 hours. And the chairman yesterday was on WCBS News Radio 880, making worst case scenario if Albany does not come through and does not provide the MTA funding. We could be looking at 2009 service cuts repeating itself all over again. Now, what would that mean? That would mean that there's a chance subway line service could get cut, bus lines could get cut. I certainly remember when the V train was cut almost 15 years ago. So I don't want to see that happen. And there's still rumors going around the grapevine that with the Queens bus redesign, the Q30 route, it's basically a plan to cut that line along Utopia Parkway. So I'm asking Democrats, Republicans, Independents in the Assembly, in the State Senate, come through. We need a deal done by this Saturday, April 1st, because the last thing we need to see is budget cuts. That's the last thing anybody wants to see, where it could lead to, guess what? Fare increases, just like 2009. So we do not want to see that, especially with inflation the way it is right now. Everything else is going up. The last thing we need is to see our fares going up on the commuter rail lines and, of course, New York City Transit. So again, clock is ticking, 72 hours left. You know, I'm hoping that Carl Hastie and Andrea Stewart-Cousins can come to the table and get a deal done. Stop playing politics with our service. So that's all I have to say for now. Thank you for hearing me out.
Thank you for your remarks, Andy. Our next and final speaker for today will be Sasha Blair Goldenstein.
I think it's still Adam.
Oh, Adam
and
Wittenstein?
Miriam is online and Adam.
Oh, okay.
It's two more online.
So Adam and Miriam, we will go to you after Sasha. He's our last in-person speaker.
Hello, I'm Sasha Blair from the Rise and Resist Elevator Action Group. And we came out today because for wheelchair users like me and everyone who needs elevators to ride the subway safely, we see way too many of those yellow gates announcing that an elevator is out. More than 30 elevators went out a day during January. That's nearly 10% of subway elevators being out at any given time. That's an emergency for people like me who can't climb stairs and are stuck on the platform or outside the station. And it's very dangerous for many older adults, people with strollers, luggage, or deliveries, and they have to take their chances on the stairs. The thing is, elevators aren't rocket science. The whole city runs on them. And we have dedicated, hardworking MTA employees that are out there every day who want to fix this. But it's Governor Kathy Hochul who sets the MTA priorities, who directs where the resources are going to go. So we're calling on her to make this a priority, make us a priority, so that broken elevators won't be a danger to us or an economic vulnerability to New York. New York needs those tourists to come here, families with small children to settle, and older adults to retire here. And to make that happen, we need a binding legal commitment to keep the elevators working. We have a great plan to build elevators in every station. Now they have to work. We'll only get a real return on that investment once we can rely on those elevators working. Please, Governor Hochul, step up for us and for New York. Thank you.
Thank you for your remarks, Sasha. Our next speaker will be Miriam Fisher, followed by Adam Wittenstein, who will conclude our overflow session today.
Can you hear me? It's Miriam Fisher.
Yep, we can hear you.
Okay, thank you for affirming my existence, that I'm still here. And I'm not quite sure how that all happened. And I want to applaud the testimony of my colleagues, the disability and transportation activists, affirming the need for accessibility. The return to the subway is linked to safety and reliability, according to the MTA satisfaction for riders survey. But not included in the survey are elevators and escalators vital to people with disabilities, seniors, strollers, luggage, as you heard several times this morning. Let's expand the definition of reliability and safety, including the needs of people with disabilities. Reliability, and here I'm quoting from the testimony earlier of Keith Powers, Majority Leader of the City Council, January, February 2023, and in a Metro AM article about the real figures. 34 out of non-working elevators daily as an average out of 353, about 10%. 33 out of 297 non-working escalators daily, about 11%. Those aren't the statistics we've heard of 99% reliability. Safety and reliability, safety. And here's a photo by the previous speaker, letting people know that the elevators are out. And this I got from Sasha, Washington, D.C., digital signage letting people know the elevators are out.
Okay. Please conclude. Thank you, Miriam. Please conclude your remarks. Your 2 minutes is up.
People get stranded We would like signs, digital auditory announcements,
Thank
just
you,
like we
Miriam.
hear on the platform and on the subway of changes.
We're good on. Miriam.
Okay, our next speaker will be Adam Wittenstein.
Hello. I say hello and not good morning because after the past 5 weeks on the MTA, all the mornings have been ruined and none are good. Given the service cuts to Great Neck and the Port Washington branch, some of which may be infrastructure related, but most of which are not. There is plenty room to provide more service without affecting other branches, without the pocket track that is always used as an excuse. But the main issue at LIRR and MTA in general is communication. Messages not being answered. When on the rare case you do get an answer, the answer is irrelevant and very late and untimely. Which led to disastrous schedules being implemented February 27th because the feedback for 8 to 9 months prior to that was not acknowledged. If not a legal violation, certainly an ethical violation of the public meetings law, in that the public meetings were 8 months before the schedules. Once the rollout was delayed, the schedules there should have been more public meetings. These schedules were also not updated to reflect the changing conditions 8 months later. But again, the constant getting hung up on, the mistreatment when I call Chairman Lieber's office by the workers there. And I can't even get through to President Rinaldi's office. Chairman Lieber's office gave me a disconnected number. And then the numbers that do work ring over and over and don't go to voicemail. So I asked the MTA to, I understand infrastructure and things, but even if your infrastructure is outdated, you should still be able to treat people and customers respectfully, which you're not doing right now. Thank you.
Thank you for your remarks. And everybody in the overflow room, thank you for your participation and comment. This concludes our public comment session. Thank you very much.